Whose defense is better, Baltimore or Kansas City? Because
Baltimore.
I'm not ready to say that. I'm not ready to say that. I'm sure they're better statistically and all that stuff, but I've seen this defense prove it in the postseason. So part of it for me with Spags and Kansas City, like McDonald's doing a great job. They're talking about him as a head coach maybe at some point. They are doing a terrific job. But I would give the nod to Kansas City until I see them not perform in big spots. And I got to see Baltimore do it down the stretch. Right now, here's what I think I realized about Baltimore yesterday. It's so easy to look at the sum of the parts. They don't have any superstars, right? Although I'd say Kyle Hamilton might be a superstar in the making.
Right.
You know, you've got a corner who's a top 5-7 corner, depending on how you look at it when he's healthy. The guys up front are good, but on paper before the season, it was a big question mark. Where are you getting your pass rush from? You bring in Clowney. That's a hit or miss year-to-year thing. Matabike's got 8 sacks. Yep. Owe had a sack yesterday on a spin. But here's what I think about this defense that people don't realize, and maybe Seattle doesn't realize it looking at them on film. But when you roll into Baltimore and you look across from you got that big motherfucker inside, and you got Matabike, you've got those 2 big, huge edge guys. Owe looks like a fucking G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Clowney's huge. They're just big and physical. I think sometimes you can't measure that on film.
And then the second level moves fast, and they're just as physical as the front.
They're very physical on the back end.
Van Noy playing great ball.
Van Noy's playing great. He's had 4 sacks since he's been there. Yep. So like they're physical. They rush well off each other. Van Noy had a TE that was like a natural. They're buying into the team defense concept. They remind me of the New England defense the year we got all out over our skis about them in 2018, I think it was, and we were like, they're historically good. We did this a month ago with Cleveland. Not so, right? They're not historically good. They're very good. Baltimore might be better than that New England defense, though. And again, you didn't know where the pass rush was coming from, but they're leading the league in sacks. So,
and you talk about a team that can take on the identity of the success that their offense is having too. I mean, you bring in a new guy, new offensive stuff for Lamar to feed on, and he's not at that. But we're not even at the bone yet. He's still at the meat of that.
Yeah.
Of that cut.
Wait till he gets to the marrow.
And the defense is like, hey, look at them. Like we can grow too. I mean, I know to your point, they don't have guys that are like world beaters all over the field, but as a unit, they're great. And Roquan Smith, it seems like every big game that they have, he has something to say before the game, and it's never disrespectful. But
there's
it's
your superstar.
It's always
that's your superstar.
Well, that's what I think of when I think of the Ravens. I think about Roquan.
That's your superstar.
Controlling the middle of the field. He's doing the communication. Him and Queen are awesome. But look, I played with him. He's a freak, and when he says something, I believe him. Just like when I talk about Patrick getting that offense ready. If Roquan says they're ready to roll, I think they're ready to roll.
Dude, the guy's a stud, and we've talked a lot about how just it instills confidence in you when you have a guy behind you that's lining you up. And also when as one of those big guys, double teams are going to come off me. I'm going to see color flash through my gap, and there's going to be a TFL. And, he's just like a missile out there. And I thought they did a great job of making Geno uncomfortable. I mean, I don't know what happened on that pick, if it's I think it was JSN, or was it Lockett?
Lockett.
It was Lockett. And, here's what they said in the broadcast, was Tony and them were saying that he thought he saw 0. And so he just went there. And they bailed out and played coverage, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever it was, there's too many of these with the Seattle offense, whether it's JSN bobbling a ball on 3rd and 5 to start the game, which you can't do on the road. No third down you can take for granted against a better team on the road. Or it's the miscommunication with Tyler Lockett. These are 2 veteran players. Right. I talked about it last week up in Seattle against Cleveland. There were a lot of little fuck-ups that maybe don't, it's an option route, somebody's taking the wrong way, or you don't know where you're putting the ball. I expect better out of that offense in the passing game. And where they're really disappointing, and the reason I don't take them that seriously, and a week ago we're talking about, hey, they're in front of the Niners in the NFC West, the whole thing. That's fine, and they're a good football team, but I can't expect them to go win 3-4 games and get in the Super Bowl and win it if you can't convert on 3rd down and you're terrible in the red zone. I hate to boil it down to something so boring, but until you do that, it's hard to take you seriously, is what I've decided.
Big tip of the cap to the personnel department in Baltimore. You're bringing in all these guys all the time and trying to make the pieces work. And like you said, it's a unit more than it is stars, and there are stars on the team. But one guy who stepped up big, rookie Keaton Mitchell, he had 9 carries,
That's
138 yards and a touchdown. Undrafted rookie, star in the making, question mark. That's why I wrote 40-yard and 60-yard run. And you know what? His dad, Anthony Mitchell, won a Super Bowl with the Ravens as a safety.
This was
that's so uniquely Baltimore.
It
Ravens.
is. It's so, but it was such a big lift that I don't think anybody saw. Like maybe if you're a Ravens fan, you know this kid's going to get some burn at some point. It's supposed to be really fast, looks even faster on the field. But there was one drive in the first half and one drive in the second half that they featured him, which is huge, right? Because if you're Baltimore, you know two things. We want to use this kid. We like him. And number two, every time we give him the ball, it's less chance that we're down another running back to Gus Edwards or with Justice Hill. Like a three-headed monster in that running back room really fits what they do because they ran the ball 44 times, which also means they came into this game expecting to run the ball 44
against a team
times.
who was number one in the NFL versus rushing. You know,
and they
against
knew
running backs, and Seattle or Baltimore was like, "Fuck it." Dude.
Yeah, plus Leonard Williams. Oh yeah, throw Leonard Williams in there.
Dude.
Nothing. It doesn't matter. And as much as I want to put the game on the defense, because when you look at that fucking Seattle in plus territory, middle eight before the half, comes up with no points. They have two opportunities. In fact, they give it back to Baltimore, who kicks a field goal. I know it's a tough spot for you, but you come out in the second half as a defense, and you know they're going to run the ball. The very first play, it's Gus Edwards for an explosive, and he's running through Witherspoon, and they're moving guys on the double. And it just felt like you come out of the half, you had to have an attitude of my back's against the wall as a defense. At this point, we're down 17-3. I always say, stopping a score, you know, as a gambler or as a player who's used to being down in games. Being down 17 in a situation like that is so much different. You had to shut the door. And the very first play of the second half, you weren't ready for the challenge. There's somebody I want to shout out on the Baltimore offensive line. That entire offensive line gave Lamar a lot of time, okay, except for the Mafe burst, which was great. I thought that was Mafe's most impressive sack of the season on Ronnie Stanley. But John Simpson is a guy that keeps popping up for me when I watch tape and a guy that gets me excited. I talked about when they played Cleveland, the very first play of the game before they ran for about 300 yards. Not that John Simpson. There's big old John Simpson, who I caught on a hot mic after one of the touchdowns saying, I fucked that bitch up.
Hell yeah.
And I was like, who was that? I got to go back and see. So I went back and I looked, and it only could have been John Simpson. I mean, he flat backed somebody. He was a big part of that double team to start the second half.
Hey, go up. Yeah, right there.
If you
pre-draft measurables.
Go to Mitchell's touchdown and watch what he did. This guy adds a physical element to that offensive line that fits who they want to be perfectly. And I just want to shout him out in the run game. I really like this guy. Not a lot of people talk about him, but he's got that attitude. The first play of that Cleveland game, they ran counter or something like that, and he flatbacks Zadarius Smith, and it set the tone for the whole game. And so I really like John Simpson. I want to shout out one of your guys,
That's
Kyle, offensive lineman.
They challenge him Saturday night in that meeting room. They say, hey, play one, big dog. We're going your way.
Play one.
We're going at Big Zadarius, and they turn. The whole team's in that room.
Exactly, dude. They do that.
The whole team's in the room. You know,
we're gonna get out. We're gonna get out on the right
when I
track.
got challenged on Saturday nights. Not at the end, but at the beginning.
Yeah.
He's in that point in his career. You can make yourself the guy you want to be, and that's awesome. Good shout out.